So for those of you who don't know me, my name is George Hargis, and I'm the PR and social media manager for USPA. And today we will be discussing the process of getting skydive instructional ratings. I'm so excited to be speaking with two very experienced people who dedicate a lot of their time to teaching skydivers how to become coaches and instructors. And they both have a wealth of knowledge on this subject. I would like to start off by introducing USPA Vice President Sherry Butcher, who is an AFF and coach examiner, a longtime member of the Safety and Training Committee for the USPA Board of Directors. And Sherry works full-time teaching new skydiving students and running Air Ohio Skydiving. Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And we also have the honor of our second guest, USPA Safety and Training Chairman and USPA North Central Regional Director, Michael Wadkins, who is an examiner for all instructional ratings, and he's just an all-around nice guy. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So before we dive into our discussion, I want to let the audience know that we will be referencing the Instructional Ratings Manual, which is also known as the IRM. So I have my physical copy here. This is for 2023-2024. If you don't already have a copy, I highly suggest that you get one soon if you're thinking about getting any of the instructional ratings, because everything that you need to know to get started will be in these books or in this book. So you can get this on Amazon, or you can also go to uspa.org and get a free version PDF or flipbook format. And I'm actually going to just drop that link in the chat right now so everyone can access both of those, the Amazon link and the free downloadable version. And then aside from what we will be talking today, I also put another link in the chat, which is on USPA's website as well. And that's the Earning and Licensing Ratings tabs. And in that website, don't go now because we want you to stay here, but later on, go visit this website. You can search for an upcoming rating course. You can find an examiner that's close to you. You can also click on the education page and it will take you to open book practice exams and pre-course activities that you can do on your way to getting your rating. So there's lots and lots of information there. And I guess I can kind of spill the beans a little bit because it's going to happen soon. But while we're on the topic of USPA's website, we have an addition of some online modules for the coach course, which will be making its debut sometime before spring. So really soon. And Michael, you've actually kind of worked with these modules in beta testing, right?
Sure have.
Okay.
They're fantastic.
They're just, they kind of go along with what they're going to be learning in their course, and they kind of side by side.
Yes, ma'am. They have 40 interactive videos that you can take over a period of time, which will help you prep for the coach course, because sometimes the coach course can be pretty overwhelming for some of the candidates, especially with all the book stuff. We find that it's very helpful for them to be armed with knowledge and got the nose in the book so they know what to expect. So I highly encourage young coaches who might be interested in this rating to get online and check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. So that'll be on USPA's website. We'll probably make an announcement in Parachutist, so you guys will have the direct link, but that will be available for purchase for $99. So right before spring, we're really excited to have that come out.
Yep. And can I make a couple comments on that too? I think it's important for people to know that you do not need to be enrolled in a current coach course to take advantage of these online modules for the coach rating. So even if you're not 100% sure that you are ready for signing up for a coach course, you can do the online modules. You'll have access to those for at least several years. So you can go back and take advantage of them again. They will be updated over time, I'm sure, as you know, as we learn and update methods. But you can use them as many times as you want to in preparation for going to a coach course. And additionally, the greatest part of this is that it's going to allow more time for practical training during the coach course, because we're going to get so much of the classroom book work done up front before you even show up for your course. So really get to apply it, all the information, while you're at the course.
That's exciting. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing that. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to really benefit from using those modules. So now it looks like most of you have answered the poll. And while we're talking about coach ratings, that seems to be what the majority of you are interested in. So we'll start off with talking about the coach rating. And then it looks like we're going to go into AFF after that based on interest from the poll. We are going to cover all of the ratings today. So if you're interested in Tandem, static line, IAD, stick around, but we're going to start off with the coach rating. Okay, so let's dive right in. Michael, what are the minimum jump numbers required in order to take a coach course?
You have to have a B license and 100 jumps to take a coach course.
Okay, 100 jumps.
Yes,
I know a lot of us are like, that doesn't seem like that many. But Sherry, do you think there's a set of free fall skills that a coach candidate should possess and can possess with that 100 jump number?
Oh, definitely. Because I mean, really the skills that we're looking for as examiners when we're doing a coach course is stable exits, head high, stable exits into the relative wind, with the ability then to observe your student, and then being able to fall straight down. You know, those basic skills of being in position, be a good base, and then using, you know, your observation skills, you know, from being in place and free fall to bring stuff down to the debrief.
Awesome.
So it's not a lot of huge flying. It's just a matter of being comfortable and being able to adjust to your student.
Okay, awesome. Are there any other pre-course requirements, Michael, other than the B license, the 100 jumps? If I have those two requirements, what else do I need to do to take a course?
You need to attend, assist, and participate in a first jump course.
Okay.
That's all part of the proficiency. You can also go online on your USPA profile and take the coach exam as many times as you want, so you can also pass it. I also like to add up to that as well is get your nose into the books, get your nose into the ISP, section 2, that's it. Section 2 in the SIM. Section 4 is the whole ISP portion, focus on categories F through H. So that's pretty much what we focus on for the young coaches. So if they want to be a little bit more prepared, those modules we talked about, they specifically dive into those categories. But if they have more knowledge about what's supposed to be taught, then they're going to be better prepared for the course.
Awesome. And I realized I held up the IRM when you were talking about the ISP. So I just want to clarify with everybody that the ISP is the Integrated Student Program.
Right.
And that is actually in your SIM. So Skydivers Information Manual. Again, you can also get that hard copy on Amazon or online at uspa.org for free in the link that I dropped in the chat. So yes, knowing those sections in the SIM is really important to that coach course. And go ahead, Sherry.
So I just wanted to take a step back for a second, because I feel like we could sort of an overview for anybody that's on the call that is not familiar. Our instructional rating hierarchy starts with the coach rating, and from that, after that coach rating, with some other criteria, then you are eligible to get an instructor rating in several different disciplines. So the coach rating is foundational, and really the overarching goal of a coach course is to teach you how to teach. Because once you have that teaching process down and you're able to apply it, you can use that process for any of the disciplines in the future. And even if you're not sure you ever want to, and this is really important to remember, even if you're not sure you ever want to become a part-time or full-time instructor, taking a coach course is so beneficial to just being a more well-rounded, better, knowledgeable, safer skydiver. It helps your overall awareness at the drop zone, looking out for other jumpers, making good safety decisions, and just raising the safety culture at any drop zone. So if you're not 100% sure, you don't have to start coaching, but just take a coach course, just better yourself. It's just continuing education.
That's exactly what I was going to say, continuing education.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said, Sherry, about making you a more well-rounded skydiver, because the recall skills that you were saying, you know, in order to be a good coach, you want to have the skill recall from the jump, be able to come and talk about it after the fact. And that will make anyone a better skydiver, because they can remember what actually took place in the jump and deconstruct it. So I agree with both of you. So in your opinion, other than those type of free fall skills we mentioned earlier, what type of person makes a good skydiving coach? Michael, go ahead. Sorry.
Somebody who's passionate about the sport, obviously. And part of that passion passes on over to the student, that they're actually gainfully employed in wanting to be able to make that young student. What I teach in my courses, you want that student to be a better student than you were at that particular level. So that's kind of the coach candidate we want to see, because most of the candidates at this level, they're fired up about skydiving and all that. That same passion can also carry it on over to their teaching. Somebody who also holds the standard, their standards when it comes to the advancement criteria. So those are the kind of people we're looking for.
Can you elaborate just a tad more on the advancement criteria? You just mentioned an important word.
Yeah.
Elaborate a little bit more when you say that. What does that mean?
On each dive flow, and so on the second page in each category, it has an advancement criteria, what the coach student needs to do to pass that particular jump. And it's well-defined criteria. And that's also found on the A license progression card. That also helps out the coach. And we teach that during the evaluation process when it comes to recalling the skydive, how they would talk to a student in the likelihood that they may not pass, but they still need to be encouraged. So that advancement criteria is found on the A license progression card, as well as in the second page in each category on the advancement criteria for the student to pass that particular skydive, as well as the canopy dive flow.
Okay, so the coach course candidate should be able to adhere to those advancement criteria. That makes sense. Sherry, did you have anything to add to that? What type of person makes a good coach?
Becoming a coach is like becoming a mentor. You have to be willing to accept several different responsibilities when you become a coach, because it's not just going out and having fun. You're actually working with somebody who is not licensed, and taking on a big responsibility for that person's safety. So it's a big deal, and one that needs to be taken seriously. You can certainly have all kinds of fun doing it, and that's why having your mentors supporting you as a new coach is so important. If there's anything you ever don't know or you're not sure of, you always should have somebody that you can go talk to and get support and direction from. And so you have to not only be somebody who's willing to learn, but somebody who is willing to listen to people with more experience, so that you can continue, as you've heard many times, getting a rating is just a license to learn. Nobody expects you to be a great coach day one. What we expect you to be is open-minded and willing to listen and continue to improve as you get more and more practice being a coach.
And the caveat on what Sherry's saying, each instructor is supposed to mentor the young coaches. So we arm them with the information. We have only 3 days to participate. get them all that information that they need. But we rely on some of those senior instructors at that particular drop zone to mentor them and make sure that if they do have a question, or if there's issues with an advancement criteria, or how to impart a particular piece of information out of the ISP, those senior instructors who've already dealt with that can share some of those tools with those students. So they should not be left on their own. There should be a mentorship program. That's where Sherry and I totally agree on.
Awesome. So we do have some questions in the chat. And so if you are here and you want to ask any questions to Sherry and Michael, just type them in the chat and I will get them answered for you guys. Jenna asked, Sherry mentioned being able to fall straight down to be a coach. Does this mean matching their fall rate?
Yes, you need to be able to set an average fall rate. And then as you would learn in the coach course, some of the categories require you to adjust fall rate because your student has not learned how to do that yet. And then, so you would need to be able to dress for success so that you are going to be able to fall with the student that you're jumping with appropriately. And then, so it requires up and down, forward and back, and strong exits with the ability then to get to your student in a reasonable amount of time if they aren't quite stable on exit.
Yeah. Okay, and then Robert asked, for us to just go recap the sources of what to review for the first class. So I think, Michael, that's you were talking about the ISP and what specific sections should they be reviewing before the course?
One part is they need to attend a first jump course or assist or participate. So that's category A. We teach them how to teach first jump course topics and how to teach a first jump course. So they should be familiar with those areas. And categories F, G, and H. That's the purview of what a coach is usually dealing with when it comes to students.
Okay, cool. So hopefully that answered your question. And like I said before, this is getting recorded and put on YouTube. So if you forget what those are, you can always come back to this video later. Okay, Ryan asked, I just got recurrent in September this year. I have 494 jumps. I held a coach rating 3 years ago, but I've not used it since then. He wants to become an AFF instructor. So with that said, should he retake the coach course and then pursue the AFF rating, or go straight towards having an AFF rating?
According to the IRM, you could have held or have a current coach rating, so it's not required to be an active coach. We will teach them all the requirements in the AFF course. If you had a good coach course, part of the AFF portion in that course is a review of the content that we taught in the coach course. So he should probably be okay, depending on what where he stands. How long ago was he on current? How much of a break did he have during this time frame? Did he tell you during his question?
I think he said 3 years.
The coach rating was 3 years ago. It doesn't say how long the break was, but he could probably, contact his local, an examiner local to him, and have this kind of discussion of what they think maybe.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And part of that too is going to. Go ahead, Sherry. I'm sorry.
No, you finish. Go ahead.
Part of that too is going to be taking a general instructor exam, as well as the AFF instructor exam. That'll get him to get his nose back into the books. That might get some of the information back in his noggin, so to speak. He might refresh some of the information that he realized that he hasn't used in a while. But it doesn't hurt to do a coach refresher going into a very daunting AFF course.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to mention that he could retake the coach exam on the USPA website. Again, you don't have to be enrolled into a course to do that, just as a refresher. And generally, I think most examiners, whoever you got your coach rating from, if you contact that examiner, you can probably sit in, audit a course, and you don't even have to, probably don't need to do the examinations, but you'll get all the information in practice and be really refreshed if you can audit a course before you do the AFS course.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Nina asks, what are some things that you would recommend new skydivers work on who have the intention to go for their coach rating soon, but they're not near that 100 jump number yet?
Belly skills.
Belly skills.
Belly skills. They all want to have fun, and that's part of our sport. But we assess the coaches very regimentally during their air skills, how well that they can maintain proximity. And just like Sherry was saying, adjusting fall rate. Some of those are really critical, having good belly skills to be a good coach.
Yeah. I think the best thing you can do if you is 2, 3, and 4 ways. It's four-way jumps with staying close on exit, all of the things that you would be practicing as a coach, you will learn and get so much good practice on 4-way jumps. Do as many of them as you can on your belly.
Yep. All that helps.
All right. And we are kind of getting short with time, but there is kind of 2 relevant questions that I'm going to squeeze together. So someone had asked, define attending a first jump course as part of the code course preview. But I already know what the answer to that is, so I'm going to tie it into what is defined as assisting in the first jump course, and being that a non-coach rating individual is not allowed to teach or train. So talk about what they're doing in this first jump course before attending the coach.
One, they're watching the senior instructor impart that information, which is helpful during their course. Assisting, holding up pictures of emergency procedures, being a person to role model a particular body position for that instructor. They're there as a tool for the instructor. That's what we look at as an assistant. They don't have the knowledge. They may have the knowledge, they just don't have the skill set yet to impart that information, but they assist by helping the instructor teach the course.
Okay. It's really an introduction for a candidate to, there's very, very likely that they have not been in a first jump course since they took their own. So it's really just a refresher of what's included in the first jump course, and then to not only refresh the content of the first jump course, but to watch the process of teaching it. And it's taught many different ways, drop zones across the United States. So think of it just as that introduction, and know that more than likely the drop zone owner or the chief instructor has a process for new coaches to get to the point where they're actually teaching a first jump course solo. And that doesn't mean you just have a coach rating. That might mean that you co-teach 2 or 3 first jump courses before you're sent out there on your own to do it.
Yeah, that's great. So to answer those 2 combined questions, you're attending a first jump course as an assistant to the instructor in order for you to learn how to teach the class and to assist them with whatever they need, body positioning, like Michael said. Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately we're pressed for time, so we're going to move on to a different rating. But if you guys have questions for Sherry and Michael regarding any of the stuff we talk about today, we are going to send you their email address. Keep in mind that they are not working on rating stuff on the website. So if you're doing something with your account, like applying for a rating or trying to work out something on your USPA account, that's not Sherry and Michael. So in that case, you would contact USPA headquarters. But if you have a question for your coach rating for Sherry or Michael, they'd be happy to answer you. Okay, so moving right along to AFF, which was the second most popular thing chosen in the poll. So, Michael, what are the minimum jump numbers required in order to take an AFFI course?
There isn't a minimum number. There's a minimum free fall time, which is 6 hours, and a C license. Also, the coach rating kind of gets paired up in there if you want to look at a minimum number. If you've had your coach rating less than a year, you need to have 500 jumps. The reason behind that, we want that coach to have some practice and some opportunities teaching students and having some opportunity to present the content. So if there is a magical number, it's 500 if the coach has had a rating less than a year. If they've had a rating, that coach rating over a year, as long as they have 6 hours of free fall and a C license and an instructional rating, current or uncurrent, they can attend the course.
Okay, awesome. And Sherry, what set of free fall skills should an AFFI candidate possess? So they're showing up to the course. What skills should they have already?
Just supersize those coach free flying skills. It's learning to fly outside of yourself. So you have to have a high level of flying skills for an AFF rating, because you're not just observing, you are there to be close, to catch, to fix a student's body position, and do it without having to think about, do I need to push my legs out? Do I need to do this? You just have to go. So it's really just, again, a lot more belly jumps, a lot more just being so comfortable that you really don't have to think about where you're going or how you're getting there. It just works.
Okay, awesome. And Michael, are there any other pre-course requirements that an AFFI candidate should complete before the course?
Yeah, I'd like to capitalize on what Sherry said. Some of that flying needs to be intuitive. You should be able to fly in close proximity, observe the student's body position, being able to teach and be altitude aware all at a given time. So that takes a little bit of situational awareness when it comes to that skill set. Now, to caveat to your question, the pre-course helps out immeasurably to any candidate who wants to attend an AFF course. We give that student or that candidate an opportunity to practice some of those skill sets. And it's just like we're teaching an AFF student, they're usually in dive flows. Most AFF examiners have dive flows that we shared with each other to get that candidate ready. So I would highly encourage an AFF pre-course. If you don't have that opportunity, we often say work with a seasoned AFF instructor out there to work on spin stops, rollovers, correcting exits, flying in close proximity, throwing signals and still not moving. There's quite a bit of pre-course work you should do before showing up to an AFF course, because that's usually where the higher fail rate is during the air evaluations.
Right.
Do you find? Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I think that what we find as examiners is that if somebody comes to an AFF course who is comfortable flying on their belly and has a good situational awareness that Michael just mentioned, picking up, all we're doing is transferring skills at that point. So you can come with, maybe a handful of practice jumps or maybe none at all. But if you come as a good flyer and your brain's turned on and you're ready for it, then we can, you with in the matter of a short pre-course and an AFF course, you can gain those skills and walk away with an AFF rating.
Okay.
Most examiners offer pre-course because we know that that's very helpful for most candidates to pass the course.
Right. We want to teach you.
Yeah.
We
want to prepare them.
Yeah, I took a pre-course for my AFF, and I'm so glad I did, because when I actually showed up to the course, it was I had already practiced everything with an examiner, so highly recommend.
Well prepared. Yes.
So Michael, you mentioned just a second ago some terminology that maybe not everyone's familiar with. You said spin stops and rollovers. So can you kind of just quickly tell me what those two maneuvers are, and also how a coach candidate is going to be evaluated on those?
What we try to do is simulate the problematic students that they'll encounter in the real world. When it comes to spin stop, it's in the yaw orientation when the student's on the belly, and we teach them how to engage a spin stop, leg stops, body stops, arm stops, and each examiner has their own little nuances. And there we test them at rate of speed as well as distance. In the IRM, in the back of the IRM, when it comes to area evaluation modules, AFF candidates can actually see what Sherry and I are evaluating on when it comes to time and efficiency. So when it comes to the spin stops, we're going to test them at a moderate rate and obviously a faster rate. We want to prepare them for the real world. Rollovers, students on occasion will end up on their back. We teach them a multitudes of ways of how to roll them over. We focus on a safety way for the student and the candidate and the evaluator, because sometimes that can be problematic when they don't grab the right handles, if you know what I mean. But we teach them to give them tools during the pre-course and during the evaluation. So when they encounter those problems, which they will as an AFF instructor, they're well prepared to do that in the field.
Awesome. Yeah, those are fun skills to learn. As someone who had never done those before, I showed up to my pre-course and learned all about them, and they're fun tools to have.
They're fun to do.
Yeah. And then Sherry, those are the inner skills we kind of talked about. When they're taking the AFFI course, what type of ground skill set are the candidates being evaluated on?
So we're taking the same teaching process that we teach in the coach course, and we're just applying it to basically a new outline of information. They're going to teach they're going to be evaluated on the category C and category D ground preps that they will be teaching to students once they earn the AFF rating. But in the course itself, we cover category A, B, C, D, E, all of the categories up to self-supervision, so that you get practice during the course teaching each one of those skill sets.
Awesome. So again, I'm going to reference it, the Skydivers information manual. Pick that up if you're getting any of the ratings, if you don't already have a copy of the sim, and then also the instructor rating manual too, because you'll find a lot of those ground school, that information will be in those books.
Let me caveat on that too. The USPA also plans on doing that with the AFF rating in the future, like they're doing with the coach rating. So I'm sure there's going to be stuff out there for them as well, probably within the next year or two, hopefully.
For the online modules.
Yep.
Yeah. So let me also mention that, which we did not talk about in the coach section, but it's at this moment, actually, the Safety and Training Committee is working on, and so over the next year, we'll be adding into the coach rating course and the instructor rating courses module on teaching canopy control skills. And there will be, a ground evaluation added, I'm sure, to all of the instructor rating courses, so that we can do a better job with our students, out in the field.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start taking some of the questions from the chat, because we've had quite a few asked. Oh, wait, nope. That was a coach question. Okay, can you attend a pre-course without having to attend the actual course as
Absolutely.
an opportunity to explore the interest of becoming an AFFI? So
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I encourage that for anybody, just if they're on the fence or just want to see what it's about. A pre-course, there's no pass or fail. It gives you an idea of what kind of flying is needed, so you can go out and practice with your friends or other AFF instructors. So there's no obligation to attend an actual AFF course.
Yeah. And sometimes, pre-courses aren't necessarily put in calendars and events by the examiner. So I just want to let everybody know that if you're looking to do a pre-course, it might not be something your local examiner is advertising. So you can go to uspa.org and you can search for examiners. You can find the method of instruction. If you're wanting to take AFF, you can find an examiner. So that's Jen just put it in the chat, uspa.org/locator/examiner. And then also Michael and Cherry, they both know a ton of examiners in the US and beyond. So if you wanted to get someone that they would recommend, you can also email and ask them to give you a recommendation. So okay, let's see. Jen's just putting a ton of information in the chat for you guys. So every time I go to read a question, I'm like, oh, Jen's just on it with all this helpful information. So
I was going to answer too. Like she's just taking over.
Yeah. Okay, so Nina asks, what are some things that you would recommend to prospective coaches or AFFIs to work on in the tunnel? So she's asking for drill ideas, specific belly flying skills to practice. Go ahead, Sherry.
So you can definitely do rollovers and spin stops in the tunnel for AFF specific. As far as just belly skills, just anything in the tunnel, flyovers, staying close, sitting still, and anything in the tunnel like that will help you to be a stronger belly flyer. But as far as AFF practice, rollovers and spin stops are probably the most productive thing you can do.
Okay. So that was Nina. Someone messaged, would you discourage or encourage practice spin stops and rollovers with a licensed skydiver who is not an examiner?
I would encourage that with an AFF instructor. There's a nuance to it. There's nothing that says that they can't do that. But I would encourage them to do it with an actual AFF instructor.
Mm-hmm. And it's because you can. I think that what I see the most in somebody who's not an evaluator who goes up to be a student is they are more unrealistic than they need to be as a student. When you're learning a skill, it's a matter about learning the technique, and then the speed will come once you get the technique down. So if you're going up to practice spin stops, the person that's doing the turn should really just be doing it as a turn, like they should be counting to 4 or 5, right, on the first time around. So it's a nice slow turn and you can pick up the knee and do the stop and get the technique down and then get faster as you get better at it.
Yeah, I think.
And to caveat that too, you got to be able to be a good back flyer for home rollovers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're too fast or they're backtracking and they don't realize that they're doing that. And it can be discouraging to the person who's practicing because they're not going to get any opportunity to do that rollover.
Right. And watch those handles.
Yeah. Rollover, yeah, for sure. I think both of you touched on perfect things. Someone who has their AFF rating will have done those maneuvers and know how to fly, hopefully, their way through the maneuver, and probably not anyone without an AFF rating. Sounds like could be your best skydiving buddy, but maybe not that type of jump. Okay, someone, Cherise, what is the hard deck for AFFI students? That is what I'm most nervous about.
What does she mean by hard deck? When the evaluation's over or when they need to deploy their parachute?
I think she'll have to define that. Cherise, can you define what you're considering hard deck for AFFI students? She said when the evaluation is over.
Mm.
4,000 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
4,000 feet, the evaluator right below 4,000 feet will give a very deliberate wave off, meaning that the evaluation's over, and that gives the candidate 1,500 feet to turn in track and open by 2,500 feet.
Okay. So hopefully, Charisse, that answered your question. And there was one other that I saw. Oh, here it is. Charisse gave a thumbs up to your guys' answers. Kenneth asked a little off topic, but I'd like to start the path to get veteran GI bills to help cover the cost of ratings for future coaches, instructors, and other ratings. Who in the USPA would I need to contact?
I would probably think group membership or membership. Sherry, what would you think?
Probably, it might even just be an Albert question.
Yeah.
Sure, the director.
Yeah. Our executive director, Albert Birchtold.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. Kenneth, I think that would be so nice if the GI Bill did cover those costs, because then we'd have a lot more instructors, because I think kind of right now we're at a little bit of a shortage, are we not, with the industry as a whole?
More so on tandem instructors.
With Tandem, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be nice if there was some, financial aid to get, people to be able to get the ratings. Okay, so I don't see any more questions about AFF. So let's just move right into the next highest picked rating on the poll, which is Tandem Instructor. So we'll start off with Michael, I guess. We're just kind of starting with you every time. What are the minimum jump numbers required in order to take a Tandem Instructor course?
You need to have your D license and 500 ram air parachute jump. That's specified in 105.45 as well as the IRM.
Okay. And Sherry, what sort of free fall skills should someone who's considering being a Tandem instructor, what skills should they possess?
Well, they need to be a strong belly flyer, just like any other instructor rating, because they, as a Tandem instructor, and they have instructor privileges. So it's not just doing the tandem jump. When somebody is doing a tandem progression, that instructor then is able to do category D skydives and beyond. So they need the same, strong belly skills that any other instructor would need.
Yeah. I keep hearing over and over, belly, 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 belly. So if there's anything you guys get out of free fall skills for any rating, it's belly skills.
I like to caveat that canopy skill is really, really important as a tandem instructor. Sherry caveated on the good belly skills. They got to be strong, powerful exits. But canopy skills, I can't preach that enough with tandem instructors. Canopy skills.
Yeah, it's a whole new game. You're flying a huge canopy, different wing loading than you're used to.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are there any license requirements to take a Tandem instructor course?
You have to have your D license to take a tandem course. You also have to be an instructional rating holder. Part of that as well is you need to have an FAA third class medical or higher to participate in that as well. So, along with the jumps and taking a course by the manufacturer, that doesn't also complete you. You also have to take the USPA course. You have 2 paired courses. You have, for instance, Strong. They have a 2.5-day module that you have to complete. Then USPA has its portion. So it's intermingled. Same thing with UPT, Firebird. All of them have certain requirements during the academic day, as well as the jump day, the first 5. The second 5 on tandem course is geared towards the USPA.
And most all of the time, those are taught in one course, like in one
conjunction.
Yeah, in conjunction.
And I guess that means your examiner would need to be a USPA examiner, but then also an examiner for the type of tandem system. Is that correct?
Yes.
They've got to be current in both.
Okay. Okay. All right. What type of skills are tandem instructors evaluated on? So not in air, but on the ground. What do they need to possess?
You're talking about the ground evaluations?
Mm-hmm.
Then the ground evaluations, they're required to teach Category B ground prep and a Category A ground prep right out of the ISP. So they need to have some teaching skills as well. A lot of drop zones do tandem progression, and drop zone owners as well as DZO managers rely on those tandem instructors to impart that information, just like an AFF instructor would, or a stack line or IAD instructor would. They still got to have good teaching foundational skills as well. So that's important. Also, probably people skills. You're going to meet a lot of the public coming to do their first jump ever. So I think that's just as important as having good skills teaching.
Yeah. And one of the big differences in tandem is that, of course, the tandem rig is different. The emergency procedures are different. So there is a lot of time spent on emergency procedures for the particular manufacturer.
And we're looking at putting in tandem canopy modules as well. One of our directors, Angie Argon, has been spearheading this, and it's a phenomenal program. We're getting all the examiners online so that we can not only focus just on air skills, but we're going to focus on canopy drills during phase 1 and phase 2. I think that's fantastic.
Right. And that's in beta testing right now, isn't it? Out with some examiners? Yeah.
Yep, sure is. We're just trying to improve the programs overall, from the coach all the way up to tandem.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's all good stuff coming out of the safety and training committee. I love it. Okay, do we have any questions in the chat about tandem ratings? Now would be your time to ask. Nina asks, on the topic of canopies, is there a wing loading that you would recommend for coaches slash AFFIs? She would be worried about not getting down to the ground fast enough to instruct the student in a landing pattern. So this isn't a tandem question, but kind of scooting back.
Sorry,
I would like for them. Go ahead, Sherry. You can go ahead.
No, I missed the beginning of the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, she just is asking, what is the recommendation for wing loading for coaches and AFFIs?
I would say 1-to-1. It's not about beating your student. You got to remember, your student's going to be pulling higher, 5.5, 6, and they're going to be flying very large docile canopies. Typically, licensed skydivers are jumping a 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3. There's no recommended wing load. We just want you to get down safely. For AFF instructors, you should have a suitable canopy in the event that you land off. That's what I like to preach to a lot of my instructors. It's nice to have that fun wing to swoop and have a good time, because it's all about having a good time. But when you're jumping that small wing and you find yourself in a very tight area, in a neighborhood, we have very limited options. You may want to consider it a more suitable product.
Yeah, I think there's no recommended wing loading. For jump whatever parachute is good for you to jump, that's safe for you. And if you end up landing at the same time or after your coach student, nobody cares. That's okay. That's fine. If you know that's a common practice for yourself, well, then you ask an instructor or fellow coach on the ground to watch your student's pattern and landing, or film it for you from the ground so that you can debrief it.
Yeah, I think that just goes back to what you said about instructors are mentors for coaches. And so as a mentor on the drop zone, you can help that coach. Maybe they are going to land after their student, and that's okay as long as, they have assistance from their mentor. So I think that just goes back to, helping our coaches and keeping them learning.
Right. And never, ever feel pressured to change your wing loading or canopy based on what job you're doing.
Agree.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Okay, and Renee asks, is it best for tandem instructor ratings to train accuracy landing, relative work, or free fly? Also, what are the best skills to train in the tunnel aside from belly?
Okay, so that was a multi-parted
Yes, it was
question.
so let's just talk about tandem. Is it best for tandem instructor ratings to train accuracy landing? What are your thoughts?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you want to land at the drop zone
Mhm.
in a safe place on the drop zone every time. All right, and then second part, relative work or free fly. So I think they're talking about belly versus vertical
For the tandem course,
or tandem course.
belly.
Belly, yeah.
Mhm.
And then what are the best skills to train in the tunnel aside from belly?
Just focusing on the tandem.
Yes.
Mm. Anything, the tunnel is a wonderful training tool for anything. If anything, maybe recovery. That's the thing that we teach during the tandem course is how to recover after a bad exit. There's not really much that you can train for in the tandem for the tandem course, other just improving your skills overall. If you can control all axis, belly, head down, as well as vertical, you can be a pretty darn good tandem instructor because you're not going to be uncomfortable in any orientation that you may be exiting out of that aircraft. Any of that is helpful for an instructor who feels
Yeah.
comfortable at that orientation, so that they know they have the skills and the ability to recover from that.
And I should say too that, you know, some of the strongest AFF instructors that I've seen, especially on exits when an exit goes bad and they need to
Free
do a
flyers.
rollover, free
Mhm.
flyers are
Yep.
amazing. It's because
Yep.
they are comfortable on any axis and their air awareness is incredible. And so sometimes, you know, they're rolled over and on their belly before the student's halfway, you know, through their backflip and they're fixing it already. So they're not, certainly those are great skills to have.
Yep.
But if you are a younger jumper just working towards, you know, those minimum jumps to get to a coach and an AFF rating, belly is going to be your strongest, you know, the best way to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I agree with that. And it's like if you like free flying in the tunnel and you're going to invest time in the tunnel, I mean, have fun in the tunnel and those in-air skills, they're going to better you as a skydiver in general. So they don't have to
Yep.
just do belly, but having good belly skills is important. Go have fun in free fly, but don't forget your belly flying. All right. Is the tandem instructor the only rating that requires an FAA Class 3 medical?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So she goes on to saying she's trying to figure out how not being able to get a medical would limit her progression. So sounds like she could go for AFFI or you know, coach rating, just not tandem instructor rating. Okay, someone asks on tandem accuracy landings, how accurate is considered accurate? 1 foot, 5 foot, etc. So if you're saying you're a tandem instructor, you should be able to land here. What are you kind of thinking that
During the
zone?
tandem course, it says 50 meters. The original course said 50 meters for phase one, but we want to start seeing by phase two, then 25 meters, and even to get that a little bit more narrow. We realize that the young tandem candidate is flying a bigger wing as well as different wing loading. And we understand that. So if they're in the 25-meter range towards the phase two, they're going to get better the more that they do it. So any accuracy on any canopy that they use is only going to be instrumental when they start flying the bigger wings.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And part of that is going to be, you know,
Conditions.
adjusting, and adjusting being able to adjust their pattern, so that they're still flying a nice stabilized final approach.
Flat wing.
Okay, well, with just a little bit of time to go, we have one more rating, or I guess kind of two, but squished into one. We're going to talk about static line and IAD. So, Sherry, what is the difference between IAD and static line?
The static line is the traditional where the actual line is attached to the airplane and the other end of it is attached to the bag that the parachute is packed in. And when the student lets go of the aircraft, the static line that's attached to the plane initiates the deployment and pulls the bag out of the container. The IAD is where the instructor is holding on to the pilot chute. And when the student lets go of the aircraft, the instructor holds the pilot chute, and that is what pulls the pin and initiates the deployment sequence.
Yeah. And because of this, I guess, opening immediately, Michael, are there free fall skills that an IAD or static line instructor would have to have in order to get the ratings?
That they need the foundation of the coach course. So those free fall skills are imperative. To be an IAD static line instructor, you have to have an instructional rating. The minimum would be the coach. And the basic skills that Sherry spoke to about fall rate adjustment, closing, staying in close proximity, not as much important as AFF, but those skills can be valuable to an IAD and a static line instructor once they get into categories D and higher.
Okay. So is there a license requirement to take the IAD
C
static
license.
line? C license. Okay. I'm sorry if you said that already.
Right.
When taking this instructor assisted deployment or static line instructor rating course, what type of ground skills are the candidates evaluated on?
They're evaluated on, well, part of all the ground skills are evaluated on the 20-minute call gear checks. I realized that we didn't cover that as well. We talk about the academics, but we grade all of the instructors on how well they supervise the students, approaching the aircraft, pre-gear checks, inside the aircraft, monitoring the student coming back. So all those imperative for each and every one of those ratings. For the IAD static line student, they're going to be candidates. They're going to teach the category B ground prep, where they're prepping the student for their first clear and pull, and they're going to be teaching the category D ground prep, where they teach the student how to turn. So there's some similarities with the AFF course, but it's not as long as a course. Most static line courses and IAD courses last 3 days. You can take both of them in conjunction, meaning you can get the static line IAD rating at the same time, but typically you have to add an extra day there for the air skills.
Right, and primarily, there's a lot of time spent on just managing the static line, practicing that, and managing the pilot chute during the IAD and exit practice, because those exits would be different than coach exits or AFF exits.
And we teach the IAD static line because they will manage more students than an AFF instructor. An IAD instructor can manage up to 3 students at one time in assessment 182 or more, depending on the size of the aircraft. So there's a lot going into the supervision piece, as well as preparing the pilot chute for deployment. We talk about static line. There's 2 different types of static line. We have direct bag and we have pilot chute assist. We make both, every static line IAD examiner will teach them how to package as a requirement. In addition to that, you are required to be pitched as a student to have some empathy. That's the same thing we do with the Tandem program. We make the Tandem candidates right in front to have a little bit of empathy and to see what it feels like. Plus, it gives you a better perspective of what your student's going through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a better way to be able to feel what your student's going to feel unless you go do it yourself. Anything else you guys have on static line and IAD?
Yeah, they say, yeah, on the IAD, they say simulated deployments or simulated practices on the proficiency card. Simulated means you can climb out on the strut. You don't actually have to have the pilot chute in your hand, but you can practice the techniques themselves if they're uncomfortable with extracting the pilot chute, if there's no IAD instructor there. So the simulation would be the same thing with attaching a static line, not attached to a bag, but maybe attached to the lateral where that static line is just free flowing, so they can practice managing that static line as the student goes out. So I wanted to find the simulated portion when they show up for the course. That can be taken care of at the course, but if they want to be prepared beforehand, they can simulate all of those things at the local drop zone under the supervision of an IAD or static line instructor.
Yeah.
Okay. This is everyone's last chance to ask a question in the chat. I believe I did see one more tandem related question, so I'm going to go back. It was about their canopy and flying the tandem system without having the rating.
You cannot fly the system without having a medical.
Without having a medical, okay, but if they don't have the manufacturer, like if they wanted to practice flying a tandem system, do they have to have
medical?
Just the medical, okay.
And
they should, but not only that, but see, that's a double-edged sword there.
Yeah.
Because of malfunctions. As a tandem examiner, I don't recommend anybody flying that canopy by themselves. Depending on the system, there's some complex malfunctions that you can encounter. If you want to feel what that canopy flies like, fly in front and, feel what that toggle pressure is.
Right. Yeah. Do a tandem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a great piece of advice.
Right. Yeah. The equipment is too different just to go jump it on your own. You would never, ever recommend somebody getting a medical and going to do that without being under the direct supervision of an examiner.
Yeah.
And the emergency procedure tree for all systems, specifically UPT, can be very complex.
Okay, so good to know. Do you foresee the static line rating going away as more and more drop zones are adopting AFF?
No.
You're both shaking your head. Yeah, we still have lots of little drop zones out there, and
there are startup drop zones. It's a great way to get students across your doors. The certification process isn't as daunting as an AFF or Tandem program. Remember this? That's how I started years ago. Was a static line program. That was the only thing that was offered back then.
Yeah,
Sherry and I are showing our age, but that's the only thing that was. It was a very viable program, and it still is to this day.
Yeah. Okay, I think that might be all the questions. Oh, one more tandem question. What is the maximum weight difference allowed between the TI and a student? For example, 90-pound TI taking a 220-pound student.
Combined weight of 500 pounds, depending on the system. Now you're going to get into different manufacturers, so it's specific to the manufacturer. UPT with their newer system says 550 pounds collectively. That means the gear, the harness, and the student as well as the instructor. So it wouldn't be unlikely a 90-pound student would take a 90-pound and tandem instructor would take a 275-pound man. So
right. And those weight differences are going to depend on the strength of the tandem instructor and the experience of that tandem instructor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously being conservative is always the right answer.
Yeah.
That's what I tell all my tandem candidates when they first get started. Take your time. Take your time getting there.
Yeah. Great advice. One more question.
Sure. Got time.
Oh, this is an interesting question. One of the instructors at my DZ is going for a tandem rating. I heard you have to do 10 practice jumps with at least a B licensed skydiver. Is this true?
Well, again, depends on the manufacturer. The first phase, you should be jumping with a tandem examiner or a dedicated tandem evaluator. You can also jump with each other with two candidates together. Yes, the minimum requirement for what they're speaking to is UPT. It has to be B licensed. Skydiver with 100 jumps that can be involved in phase 1 and phase 2. but it's discriminatory according to the examiner who's teaching that course. I highly recommend that you have a tandem evaluator in front because they know what's expected, or a tandem examiner, or two candidates are going to the course because they understand the performance criteria.
And
usually in phase two, usually in phase two, that's when we start incorporating the B license in 100 jumps.
And phase one is 5 jumps, the first 5, correct? And phase 2 is the second 5 jumps. So that's where they're hearing the 10 jumps.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
Many examiners now, just to raise the standard, but many examiners are doing all 10 jumps with either an examiner or an evaluator on the front, simply because they're able to provide more, scenarios to test or provide experience to the new, tandem instructor that somebody who is a B license holder with 100 jumps wouldn't know to do. So you're going to get more out of the course if you are able to take an examiner or an evaluator on the front for all 10 jumps.
That's the kind of course I'd want all my tandem candidates, any tandem candidate, to attend. Take a course where you're going to learn something on each and every jump. Yeah. With an evaluator or a tandem exam.
Awesome. Okay, well, we just went slightly over an hour. So thank you for elaborating a little bit more on that last question. Thank you everyone who attended. We will send an email with this recording. So if there's any parts you'd like to jump back to, you will have a copy, and we'll also put it on the USPA YouTube page. Sherry, Michael, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to talk about this. And I will give everybody your emails. So if they want to contact you with questions, you guys are right there.
I'm available.
Awesome.
I'm available. Tell us, give me a shout. I'll answer anything they need. That we didn't get it. I know there's probably lots of questions, and I know that Jen was in the background taking care of all of her magic.
Yes.
But if nothing was addressed out of all these people who were sitting here, because I noticed all of them are still on board. If your question did not get answered, please email me or Sherry. We'll be happy to take care of that for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some questions are, more personal, or you have certain stumbling blocks that you need help overcoming. And that's what we're here for. That's what all examiners are out there for. We want to help you succeed. So reach out and ask those questions.
Please do.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, you guys.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Christmas.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.